At the time of this recording, we will be 24 hours away from having the first of many Cleveland Browns 53-man rosters. Browns did some work on Sunday. We'll go through that. Nothing that's really going to come up too glaring to this point. Probably put some final thoughts on, the preseason quarterback room and, where all that's going to be headed and where exactly the Cleveland Browns might be, kind of casting their lines here as, looking to improve some positional groups probably between Tuesday and Wednesday, making that first 53 probably a little trivia question because it will change within the next 24 hours. Browns 3D, your host, Jeff Lloyd and Jacob Roach on the OBR begins now. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, the OBR's Jacob Roach, along here for the ride today. We appreciate all of you, certainly, for all the love that is shown over at the OBR.com for the written content. And bring your favorite group of Browns writers while you're there at the OBR.com. Certainly looking at the VIP subscription. You will have the insider forums. You will have Ask the Insiders. If you are even remotely a USC fan, the bundling of that, of course, with Paramount Plus is something that certainly probably has you all giddy. I'm sure some of you were probably wondering if you can get out of your current subscription and get back in, just in case you did not get that. But, for anybody, and certainly, certainly a friendly time to go ahead and get that VIP subscription. That things are about to certainly amp up here. All the support over here for the OBR streaming network begins daily at 6 p.m. with Browns 3D. As I told you, we're still kind of working on what is going to be the fall schedule. This is the time of year where there is, kind of little shakeups between, networks. And, I'm sure you guys have all seen about that. And, we'll let you all know as it comes. And, we can just continue to give you the best content that we possibly can. Just real quick for, anybody who was, under a rock or you're probably living your lives yesterday. This is where the Cleveland Browns currently were at through Sunday. Tackle Jackson Borton has been released. Cornerback Tony Brown II released. Snoop Huntley, quarterback, released. Nick Needham released. 17 players waived. Izume. Look, man, if you were going to make the 53, I would have given my damnedest to learn how to say it. Sal Cannella. Sal Cannella could be interesting. I think just because with White Hart and where he is at injury-wise, I think Sal Cannella, that's one of those ones where maybe you soft pack. You don't pack everything just yet. Javion Cohen certainly was with the team the majority part last year with the practice squad. Sebastian Gutierrez, KJ Henry, Ralph Holly, Christian Holmes, Keenan Isaac, Jason Ivey, Titus Leo, Marvin Moody, Darius Rush, Charlie Thomas, Lorenzo Thompson, Dorenzen Tinsley, Mitchell Van Voorheen, and center Bucky Williams. Jacob, nothing there just pops out, I want to say name-wise, but if anything pops out for me, it seems that the Browns are very displeased with this cornerback room.
Yeah, because I kind of felt like Nick Needham was kind of by default getting a roster spot there, like for at least for a week or so, just because of Cam Mitchell's struggles in the slot. And like Nick Needham, I know it's been 3 or 4 years, about since 2022 or so, but like they had some really good slot, production for Miami like a few years back. And so to me, I'm looking at this roster, trying to figure it out with what's in house. And I'm like, I think Nick Needham's probably going to make it until they find a different slot corner they like more. So I didn't think he would be like on the first wave of cuts, like if he was going to get cut. But yeah, I mean, you cut a couple. You cut what? Four. You cut five. You cut five corners, including Nick Needham. And so at this point, it's like, yeah, I've got one. I know Pete doesn't agree with me, but there's already been one corner release that I would very much like to be interested in. But yeah, I look at this and I say they're going to. They're going to add a different tackle because I thought Jackson Barton would be that fourth tackle, and they're definitely adding something in that corner room. That's very obvious from those cuts yesterday for me personally.
Yeah, and we can certainly watch that because there could be a familiar name as far as a fourth tackle possibly coming back to Cleveland. For Pete Smith, look, find me a better name right now or somebody with a better resume than Mike Hilton right now.
Yes.
And, look, if you want to go door number 3 and just go completely, hey, we're going to put blank faith in this guy, that's fine. But, look, I do get it. Mike Hilton's 31 years old. Probably his best ball is behind him. But, Mike Hilton can go anywhere right now today and be the nickel cornerback for week 1. And that's certainly something that, sadly, the Cleveland Browns probably could use. So, I don't want to delve into this too much because I'm to the point where I'm just absolutely stinking disgusted with it. I really am. And I know he can't say anything, but I am pretty sure Shedeur Sanders would like to tell. And look, I don't know even how close these guys think they are with Deion Sanders or they are with Shedeur Sanders. I got to be honest. I don't know how close they even think they are.
Mm-hmm.
Or probably would be like, Dad, please just give him all. You know what I'm saying? Because it just makes my life 10 times harder. Look, Shedeur had a really rough day Saturday. I was telling Jacob before we even fired up the record button, Shedeur ended up going 3 of 6 passing. If he went 3 of 10, only 1 sack, believe it or not, that actually would have been pretty impressive. Because it was shown that Shedeur learned the ability of, and look, he's trying. I get it. He's trying to avoid getting sacked. But the point in those scenarios is not to avoid getting sacked to try and make a play. Just go decide another bet. Get the ball as long as it goes over the line of scrimmage. As long as it passes the line of scrimmage going out of bounds. Do whatever you can to get yourself in yet another down and save the down. So it's really difficult. And, I can't listen to Shannon Sharp and Chad Johnson sitting here criticizing the Browns organization when these two in January said, well, there's no way. No way. And Shannon Sharp has a quote. Oh, Prime ain't going to let Shedeur go to Cleveland. Chad Johnson's quote. You want Chad Johnson's quote? He's going to intervene like Archie Manning. Well, guys, stop. I mean, you can't have it this way now. This was the organization that gave him a chance. And they're going to continue to give him a chance. Look, this can be something that maybe Shedeur can overcome. But if Shedeur can't overcome the drifting negatively to no success whatsoever in the pocket, he's maybe will never even get the chance to get close enough to get to starting, because it's really difficult for a team, an offensive coordinator, an offensive line coach to basically say our pass blocking has to be elite. Look, Shedeur can throw the ball anywhere. He can hit spots with anybody. But if you don't give yourself the opportunity to actually release the ball, it creates problems. So a lot of this certainly is on Shedeur.
I feel so bad for him, like overall. Like
because he's been nothing but a good kid, a model citizen, everything. Because everything we were led to believe that he was, he's not.
It's like I was talking to some buddies today about it where, like, if that's me, and you kind of touched on it, if that's me, I'm going postal on some people. I'm like, stop putting this stuff out. Like, because every time you talk to him about like, oh, do you feel like you're getting enough opportunities? Where do you feel like overall you're progressing and all of a sudden he's like, even when he had that good performance against the Panthers in week 1, the Panthers week 1, he graded himself harshly. He was like, I don't think I was sharp. I don't think I was this, and I think he was. But I loved his attitude just in the point where he's like, I just got to keep working. I'll take whatever is thrown my way, whatever adversity, whatever it is. And I'm just going to put my head down. I'm going to work my butt off. And that's what he's done. And at this point, it just gets I have my mute button on Twitter has been getting a workout because I'm like, I just can't even conversate with some people about this. Like, I can't conversate at all. Like, I have no problem having a disagreement, an educated disagreement, not educated, respectful disagreement. Be like, oh, I like this guy. And you'd be like, no, I don't like this. That's fine. We can have this, but you can't around this subject because they invoke just crazy logic. And like RG3's, if you haven't seen it, don't look at it. I made that mistake. I listened to an RG3 thing again. I don't know why I do that. I finally muted him. It's just like, if the kid's doesn't have any issues with this and the kid's taking it in stride and just working his butt off, why are you causing problems for him? Like, I was listening a few months back to Jake Burns had a conversation with Jared Mueller on his podcast. And Jared Mueller said something that I think it was perfect. He said, once everybody decided that he wasn't a starting quarterback, like once they decided they weren't taking him in the first round, nobody wanted to deal with what came with him as a backup. Like, they didn't want their backup to have that circus. And it's not even his fault because he's been awesome. The kid's been awesome. And it's just like, can you just let him grow and develop? Like, because his time will come. I really do think he will get an opportunity, and I think it'll happen. It might even happen this year in Cleveland, at least to start a couple of games. But just like, I'm just exhausted. Like, we did the Baker Wars were something, but the Baker Wars ain't got nothing on this.
No, not at all. And, and again, this literally, in all of this, the drama around the backup quarterback, it's not the backup quarterback. It's everybody else. And I did see one great response to RG3's thing. And I think it was from Champ here in Brown's Twitter. And it was, well, how much of an opportunity did Kirk Cousins get your rookie year? Which I thought was a great, kind of touche. I'm sure, RG3 probably didn't have anything to say about it. But I really thought that was a really, pretty smart and intelligent comeback.
Yeah, that's a good.
Absolutely. One. And now here's where I kind of transition to Dillon Gabriel with this, Jacob. Because look, and I told you all yesterday, and I sat on here, I did an episode, and, I received a lot of positive feedback, and I appreciate that. And I think probably more people who do what we do probably should do that. You got to learn to eat a little crow every now and then, because you want to know what, if you're going to stand for everything, you know what, you got to be willing to say, hey, I was wrong. But if you were critical, like I was, of the Cleveland Browns at any point, whether it was drafting him, obviously Dillon Gabriel was higher on the draft board than Shedeur Sanders was, the way, and, I don't know if it was the depth chart, pecking order, if you want to call it that, in camp, had Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders. You want to know what? Here we are now, heading into practices for the regular season, and the Browns are completely vindicated and completely justified. Dillon Gabriel should be ranked over Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. The play, and look, Shedeur missing the week, it certainly hurt him. And I honestly believe when he got on that field Saturday, his mentality was, how can I put 30 points on this board in 16 minutes? And then after the first sack, it was all right. Well, now I got to score 35 points in 15 minutes. And it all just got away from him. Why did they take him off the field? I think they took him off the field because they thought there was probably an opportunity where he was going to end up getting hurt, because he was just going to be too stubborn to just take what the defense was going to give him. He wanted a YOLO ball. He wanted a 65-yard touchdown. They weren't even running deep routes, so it wasn't going to happen anyway. And I think he was just so into it in his own head at that point. They said, he might not just be thinking completely clearly. Let's just get him. And look, I'm sure the pressure was riding high within Shedeur at that point. Mm-hmm. So, but again, you could point the fingers all you want at Kevin Stefanski, the Browns, and the fact that they felt Dillon Gabriel. Jacob, it's completely justified, and they are vindicated. As of right now, going into regular season action, Dillon Gabriel should be ranked higher than Shedeur Sanders.
I think when Dillon Gabriel had the game that he had, you're right, you're spot on. Shedeur's like, he led a couple scoring drives. I've got to do 3 scoring drives, and I don't have very much time. I've only got, I've got a half a football. Like, it really did feel like he was out there just trying to be Superman. It was like, just play your game, dude. Like, your game works. Like, just go play your game. But, like, for me with Dillon Gabriel, like, I'm a Dillon Gabriel truther. People around these parts know that. And he just showed me that he's who I thought he was, which is a point guard. Like, he's a point guard out there. And, like, I've thought for months that, like, he's a great Kevin. I know he's got the limited he's got limitations because of his size, but he's got a good arm. And, like, he went out there and he just operated Kevin Stefanski's offense exactly how Kevin Stefanski wants his offense to be operated by his quarterback. take the schemed open wide receivers that the defense is going to give you, rather that's in the short intermediate. He didn't really take very many vertical shots, but he didn't need to. That's not what was there. And like, I still don't think he trusts his hamstring all the way, because that throw to Jamari Thrash, I still think he could have ran it. Like, I still think he could have probably ran that and had more success. I feel comfortable with him as the backup. That's kind of where I came to. I rewatched the game last night, and I kind of thought to myself, like, hey, he's a smooth operator, smart, efficient, understands, just thrives in structure, has enough athletic ability to be a little bit creative outside of it. But all of the things that they told us that why he was ahead of Shedeur, the processing, the mental, all that stuff, that is what he showed on Saturday to me. And so it was like you said, yeah, they're justified because we watched it now play out. And that doesn't mean it's always going to stay that way, but that just means that's what the pecking order is right now.
Exactly. And look, we're going to start to look at what some of the needs here are. And everybody, I have no idea why they're keeping 4 quarterbacks. Well, this team, over the last 2 seasons, averaged starting 4.5 quarterbacks per season. So as much as I think it's outlandish and it's not really necessarily my style, and this is probably going to ruffle some feathers too. Like, there's a lot of people that believe Kenny Pickett could be the number 2 quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengal game. Well, again, this is going to be one of those things where I think we're just going to have to let these guys do what their work. Because if the Dillon Gabriel thing was their belief, maybe they're going to be right on the Kenny Pickett thing. I'd rather just see Joe play as much as possible. Different story, different day. There's not another quarterback coming to this team. That's not going to happen right now. Running back, let's see. If you talk to Mike Florio, apparently Quinshon Judkins, now the college football season has already started, could possibly be entertaining the thought of going back and playing more college football, for whatever that means. Or if you talk to Mary Kay Cabot, and, I like to tease about Mary Kay sometimes, she believes that Quinshon Judkins could be signed very soon. I am tending to lean towards the side of Mary Kay Cabot right now, because if Quinshon Judkins were to entertain going to play college ball and blow out his knee, he is SOL. And his agent should just hand in his papers and go move to a third world country. That's not going to happen. Jacob, obviously there's a name I think we were all kind of interested in, and we're going to keep vested eyes certainly on the Denver Broncos. And I will say this with the name of Audric Estime, a lot of the times, hey, well, Tommy Rees, 2022, they were together. Estime ran for 920 yards, 11 touchdowns. I will say this, Tommy Rees, Jalen Milroe, all of 2024 together. Jalen Milroe did not become a Cleveland Brown. So, it could mean, yeah, I'm in, or it could mean, I don't know if he works with what we're doing here. I do like the fact that you could have a possibility of 3 years of some form of Quinshon Judkins, Dillon Sampson, and Audric Estime. If you want to, and this is one thing we've never truly gotten to see, is an analytic running back room, because Nick Chubb was here and he basically just defied what the analytic plan for a running back room would be. But if you told me the analytic theory for a running back room would be a round 2 guy, a round 4 guy, and a round 5 guy, sounds just about right, Jacob.
Yeah. And the thing is, I remember when Estime was coming out, and to me, it was like, this dude was like human bowling ball to me. Like, it was, I scouted him pretty heavily. I pounded the table for him because I was really surprised when the Browns didn't take a running back in last year's class.
Especially that there were guys there in day 3 like him in round 5, and Bucky Irving, wherever he went.
He's right there, like prime for the key, like they were. But like, he fills the exact thing that I want from Quinshon Judkins, like that power kind of role that, like, I've kind of penciled in Amani Marshall, but I think Estime's ceiling is significantly higher than Amani Marshall. Like, this dude just runs with, he's so fast for a dude that just wants to hurt you. Like, at that size, like, he looks to steal people's souls when he's in the open field. He even had some hurdles. Like, have you ever seen a guy that size just start hurdling defensive backs and linebackers? Because I'm just saying, and just throwing it out there, if you can't get to Audric Estime, I would not be terribly upset if you pursued Cam Akers, who's now also available. Like,
certainly
that kind of thing. But like, for me, the idea of trying to find that power back until Judkins, this is where I'm at on Judkins. I'm going to pretend he doesn't exist until he signs. That's just because otherwise I'm going to drive myself mad about it. Because like you said, you've got Florio saying he's going to potentially go back and play college football, which I'm not even sure he's allowed to, because we already had this conversation with Shamar Stewart. Mm-hmm. And I remember it being like, oh, he can sit out the year and re-enter the draft. But I think everybody said he couldn't play college football though. So I don't know, but Mary Kay, when it comes to that side of things, I'm definitely going to believe her over Mike Florio 99 times out of 99 times. Like every once in a while, Florio might get one lucky, but so I'm looking for that power kind of back. Like if you can find me that nice compliment to the explosiveness that you get from Dillon Sampson, and Jerome Ford's got some of that too in the pass catching ability. Estime's the perfect fit for me. Like you said, you got some 3 years of that. Because you get Judkins and Estime and Dillon Sampson at some point. Holy crap.
And the thing with Estime, and this was some of the things that confused me, he ran a 4.58 at the combine, which, probably was one of the things that put him in day 3. Yeah. But he weighs about, I think it was 227, 228 with a 38-inch vertical. Yeah. Okay, so there's some power between those legs. Also, Audric Estime, one of his offensive linemen in high school was none other than Luke Whippler, Cleveland Browns, third-string center. Jersey boys, Jacob. Jersey boys.
Okay.
Top prominent program here in the state of New Jersey. Wide receiver. And we hit on this a little bit on the post game. And, look, we're firm in the understanding of Jerry Jeudy is here, Cedric Tillman is here, Jamari Thresh is here, and Isaiah Bond is here. Mm-hmm. Then you have this weird dynamic, Deontay Johnson, Gage Lavardane, DeAndre Carter. If we're being 100% honest, it's not even a contest about what wide receiver looked like they should be the one to make this team all summer long. Over 100 yards receiving, 1 touchdown on the ground, 1 touchdown in the air. I forget if it was a punt or a kickoff return, but that was over 30 yards as well. Gage Lavardane basically did everything you asked him to do and then cleaned up the dishes afterwards. If we're, Deontay Johnson, for all intents and purposes, in his time here, Deontay Johnson, absolute model soldier, turned around whatever the negative narrative was. And look, it even took the onus on his head and just said, I wasn't right. Basically, I wasn't right. All that. Fantastic. That doesn't matter. Deontay Johnson, in my opinion, needs to go out there and dominate this summer. If this is a guy that was a former second team All-Pro, it shouldn't be, if we're having the debate, that tells me that we know that that's probably the sign that he probably didn't do enough to be a part of this 53-man roster. As desperate as this team was to quench their wide receiver thirst and get a name in here, but it's one of those ones, if we're actually even mentioning it, then we probably all know he didn't do enough to stay. And DeAndre Carter, everybody, look, he's not Devin Hester. His punt return average last year was less than the cumulative group the Browns ran out at punt returner last year. So he wasn't killing it. He wasn't a world beater. And also the thing is, I view keeping a return man only. This is, kind of the old Brad Ward. I kind of agree. If I want a return man only, I'm going to go find him at the trade deadline because I'm 6-1. I'm 7-1. Or I'm going to find a guy on waivers in week 17 or 18. What was it? Naheem Hines a few years ago when he went to the Buffalo Bills. They made that move late in the season because there was a guy they thought that could contribute and make a difference. It's a luxury. A team that's coming off a 3-14 season does not need that luxury. They need guys who are not the 53rd man on the roster. They need guys who could possibly be the 45th, 46th, and be wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5.
Yeah, you've got, especially in a wide receiver room that, like, we feel better about it because of how, like, guys like Jamari Thrash and Larvadane have performed in training camp in the preseason. But in terms of regular season production, there's just not that much on the roster. So if, because you're still banking on Tillman being the guy who we saw in the short sample size, and you talked about Deontay Johnson, if he sticks around, there's some provenness there, but it's been a few years, right? And Thrash and Isaiah Bond has it. There's a rookie. There's a lot of it. You got to be able to contribute in that, because there's not a lot of surefire things in that room. So if you can't contribute to that room and you can only return, it doesn't make sense to me. When Larvadane had a 30-yard punt return, as you talked about, he had another 16-yard punt return this week. Mm-hmm. So he's done it more than just one return. He successfully ran that jet sweep multiple times. I think that's why his name's in pen on the roster for Kevin. He's like, hey, Kevin's running into Andrew's office real quick.
Can I leak that name too?
But, that was cool, by the way. That moment, him leaking that with Aiden Honey, that was really cool. But yeah, it's just it's an offense that was just dreadful. If you cannot provide something to the passing offense that was so bad last year, I'm sorry. I'm just not in that place because I can get Larvadane. Jerome Ford does kickoffs. If they keep Pierre Strong around, like even if it's on the practice squad call-up, he's done returns. Like there's plenty of guys that have done returns at some point, either in the preseason or in their collegiate career or their NFL career, other places where it's like, I just don't think these dynamic kick returners, like you've said it, like it's not like he was so much better than what the Browns ran out last year. So like, it's just things have changed. I need you to compete on the offensive side of the ball. And if you can't do that, I can't.
Okay. Now, certainly there are, questions, and I'm sure there'll be a surprise about, a move made in, another positional room. Mm-hmm. But you've got to bring up cornerback because outside of Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, Cameron Mitchell's 371 snaps last year. The guys, and most of them have now been released, there were 10 snaps combined from those guys at the cornerback position in the 2024 NFL season. So either way, the Browns were going kind of raw here with the rest of this cornerback room. And, I know there's people that always want to basically, reinvent the wheel. Well, if you wanted to reinvent the wheel, if you didn't make the Shedeur Sanders trade within the draft, could have maybe drafted a reserve wide receiver and a reserve cornerback. I'm okay with, I'll take the chance on a quarterback any day and Sunday. But Jacob, this is, and I don't know how this works. And, I look at I don't know what's going on with a guy like Asante Samuel Jr., because you got to think there's something up. And I believe it was Pete who told us that he thinks, there's probably a serious shoulder concern that maybe passing a physical would be difficult for Asante Samuel Jr. until he signs next week with the Ravens, probably, because that's the way those things work. We don't know that. But, there's got to be something done here because, you don't want to say these things, but we all have our same concerns with Greg Newsome and Denzel Ward. We respect their game. We understand there could at times be an availability issue. But God forbid something like that happens. I mean, we're to the point where it's going to be like the old football video games where, like, on the back of the jersey, it just says number 39. And that could be one of these guys who's literally playing.
Yeah, what's really interesting about the predicament that they're in is they lose an outside corner. That's what they lost when they lost Martin Emerson. But now they kind of need a slot corner because Greg Newsome switches over to that, and the guy that was going to take his place, Cam Mitchell, has just not been very good. He's not been good at all. And you're like, you've tried some other guys in the slot. So, but at the same time, like, you lost a big physical outside corner, and you kind of want to maybe have that, an interesting name, just to throw it out there. I've heard some people talk about Dom Jones, who's already on the team, is kind of a big, longer corner, like maybe as a guy.
Well, that's also, I think the caveat is maybe you could say Dom James comes in second and long, third and long. And Greg, I hate to do it, but, you're going to go to the market as a corner. Whoever's going to sign you is going to sign you for what they choose, or they're going to offer you as they choose. But maybe you're going to get some early reps. But I might have to put you back there because it might be easier to find somebody to do what you do on the outside, because I can't find anybody to do what you do on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this conversation in Slack and on a whole bunch of different articles in shows on our network. Like, when I look at what's available, and I know people are now coming available as these cuts happen, but when I looked at who was available, they were all outside corners. So it was well, maybe, but if you think back to like that first year with Emerson, it was actually Greg Newsome and Denzel Ward in the two corner sets, and then Greg Newsome kicking in. So yeah, that may be what and that Greg Newsome was really good that year, where he was able to use, because I think he's better on the outside, but he's good on the inside. And so like, maybe that's the route that you're just forced to go. And if so, we've seen it be effective before. So I wouldn't have a problem if that was the direction they had to go, because just based on pure necessity and you may have a want and a need, but if there's nothing there that can fix it, you're going to have to go a different direction.
And as much faith as we all kind of have in this defensive line, there's going to be times quarterback's going to get the ball off. And, I think this defensive line can get pressure like they did in 2023. And basically all you need to do really is to have your corners trail. And as long as they can stay in trail technique, the defensive line is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Then you're going to get your turnovers because, the quarterback got walloped in the release, and there's your interceptions and your gimme ones for your linebackers and all that type of stuff. But if you don't have anybody can stay with anybody, I mean, even falling backwards, as long as there's enough, mustard on it, the Browns are going to give some completions that could end up being absolutely backbreaking. This time went a little quicker than I thought. Been a while since we had a guest here on Browns 3D. But it's nice to get, obviously, other voices within here from the network. And again, we're still honing through here exactly what's, the final, picture of the season is going to be. Pete and Joe, and for Tuesday night's episode last week, for something that literally felt like it was thrown together in about 30 seconds. Once they got going, it kind of cooked pretty damn well. So it became, some really, really good, football conversation. So I want to thank Jacob for his time here. Jacob, before we let you go, just tell everybody, before we put a wrap on this, what you got coming in the hopper here, over the next day or so, OBR wise.
Yeah, we're shifting some focus full blown into an article series. Going to be doing this a little bit more on the website because it was requested, and that's specific draft prospects in big games. So working on an article.
Assuming there's a noon start Saturday, that probably would get a couple of names. No.
That one, I normally with those things I do like three prospects. That one's probably getting like 6. It's just
get ready for 1,500 words, kids.
It's so I did 3,000 words on my top 10 quarterbacks when I released that a couple of weeks ago. But so yeah, we'll probably be transitioning into that, and then I'll probably write up on some of the guys that get signed and brought in, just kind of tag teaming on that side of things.
So basically, here's where we are. Cleveland Browns will go to the practice field tomorrow at 3:20. So what I'm going to basically tell everybody is you are probably going to get the Cleveland Browns 53-man roster sometimes before. The date officially is 4 o'clock. I doubt the Browns are going to go out to the practice field and start yanking guys off of it. So the Cleveland Browns will have probably word to us. My guess is probably going to be somewhere early afternoon, somewhere after lunch, about what the first 53 is. Then we transition to Wednesday at 4 p.m., where basically, the pickings are there to be had. So, this is just kind of where we're at. We're going to keep our eyes on the Quinshon Judkins situation, of course. They mentioned Devin Bush and they mentioned Isaiah Bond as well. And it's weird because I don't know, because some of this they're saying, well, nobody's charged with anything. They remove charges. Therefore, maybe they're not going to be under. Who knows? Okay. And again, look, I know what I do for a living. I know what Jacob does for a living. And we are not going to sit here and pretend to be able to talk intelligently on the legal system. All right. We have Jack Duffin here, and Jack Duffin, one of the smartest of this bunch, certainly cannot talk intelligent enough about the legal system. So we will let those folks do just that. So we appreciate you all for your time, of course. Make sure you head over to theobr.com. Look into the VIP subscription, insider forums, all the great nuggets from Lane, of course. Ask the insiders. With that subscription, bundles with Paramount Plus, so UFC. And a lot of credit to them for kind of bucking the trend here and just saying, well, go app-wise. We don't need to hit up everybody for more money every single month. So bundled Paramount Plus with your OBR VIP package. Everybody comes out every night to the OBR streaming network, of course, always greatly appreciated. Make sure you're subscribed over on YouTube. Make sure you are subscribed over on Twitch. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network, and we will talk to y'all tomorrow.